Yeah, we've all been in on the bit except for you, Marcus. So the bit today is the Boston announcer. So Paul Pierce is called the Truth, and Drew Holiday the other night hit a big shot, and the announcer said, "What was it? You can't handle the truth. Are we in or are we in, boys?"
All the fucking that's
Sean has his glasses off, rubbing his head like this.
That's gross. I'm a Celtics fan. Oh my god, that's probably the most freaking I've heard. Like here's the thing, like not to take away from like Drew Holiday, but I think Drew Holiday in Boston needs his own fucking nickname. And number two, and in order, and this is just me hating on Paul Pierce, but like Draymond said. You want to? They don't love you. Ain't no fucking retirement ceremony for you out here.
You just can't handle the truth.
Welcome back, everybody. Your host for tonight, Sean. I'm joined by Marcus and Trey. Marcus, how are you doing tonight?
Before we even fucking start with any of that bullshit, we're putting this to a vote right fucking now. Sean, are you in favor or nay of the truth? Because I'm voting on.
Oh, that was awful. That was absolutely awful. It's okay. You can't handle
the Trey. Majority wins.
That's
you can never say that shit. Trey, you can never say that shit on the show ever again.
Well, that's fine because I'm not in on other people saying it, but I do enjoy the hometown announcers having ridiculous things to say for their players. You mentioned though that they need his own original nickname. They're calling Holiday and White the stock exchange because they just get so many steals and blocks, and I'm pretty in on that one.
That is witty, original. I've never heard anything like that. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with something that's actually thought out. But the fucking truth,
you just say Drew. That's it. You can't handle the Drew. You don't need to turn it into the truth. He's not the truth.
I'm saying is. No. Drew Holiday is one of the few people on the team that has a ring. They should be saying NBA champion Drew Holiday when they refer to him. Just saying.
Very true. Great point, Marcus. And you heard Trey's voice earlier there. We are back to discuss the Wild's wild start to the in-season tournament and how does the LA Clippers trade for Harden and get worse. We're going to talk about that and how that happened. But where do you want to start, Trey? What do we have tonight?
Well, Marcus informed me that our teams are 10, 11, and 12 in the East standings. So I'd like to point that out to start. But I was looking at the offensive and defensive ratings. I want you two to guess who is number one in offensive rating as of this moment.
It's probably Boston.
Can I have a hint? It's either Boston or
Denver.
The Boston.
So Boston is you're closest with Boston at 3. Denver is currently 5th, but the number one team on offense so far this year has been the Philadelphia 76ers. Are you guys as surprised as I am by that?
Addition by subtraction, I guess.
No.
So I'm glad I picked them so high in the East now. A lot of people were shitting on them going in, saying that the James Harden whole experience would not bode them well, but clearly it's done them a lot better. I know they've played Toronto well, and we don't have any dogs in the street in Toronto, according to Pat Bev, and I can't really argue with him when you watch those games. Marcus, how are you feeling about the Miami Heat?
This is all part of the course. It all starts with us losing our opener game and then starting out the first 15 games looking like dog shit. And then when Jimmy Butler's body starts to heat up and acclimate to, okay, we're actually here to play basketball and stuff like that, we'll start winning some games. It's good to see Tyler Hero out there, and it's good to see that has the offensive gravitas that he was kind of lacking when we last saw him. I knew that the efficiency wasn't really what we expected it to be. We kind of expected him to make that jump a little last season before the injury, and it's looking good at this point. Bam's developing nicely. We're happy to see him as a new captain for our team. I think that's a really good pick, and it makes sure that the team knows that we're still locking into our defensive identity. I'm just sick and tired of Kyle Lowry's fat ass, I guess. That's my only critique I have over this.
I'm sorry, Marcus. You guys we just made you eat. Like, everybody talks about how we got nothing for it. It's like, what would we have gotten?
Hey, honestly, I would love to have Precious as a center.
Yeah.
I've only watched a little bit of the Heat this year, but just like looking at the numbers, it seems like the defense has been pretty average and the offense has been near the bottom of the league, which sounds about right for Miami.
This is literally the same way we start out every single season. It's kind of.
I know you said you guys are just waiting on Jimmy to warm up. Do you think a warm Jimmy and Tyler Hero, do you think that's going to be enough to lift the offense from 28th in the league up to even, like, say, around 20th?
It's kind of hard for me to say that when you're looking at the duos in the league as it's statured now, and we kind of leave a lot to be desired. Because even as of right now, if you're looking at the entity of Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid as a duo in the Eastern Conference, that's a better duo. Dame and Giannis, that's a better duo. The Jays.
Well, for perspective, right now, so like the Lakers, the Pelicans, the Cavaliers, the Pistons, and the Magic are 20th through 24th. For me,
I don't see that.
It has to be. I haven't. What little bit I saw, I don't know that I. Have you found more role players? Basically, I guess is really the where
it's a little too early for us for the gems to start shining in the season. You know what I mean? Like, we just got here, and I'm not saying that it's not indicative. Like, what we're seeing shouldn't be taken as face value, but I think that that my team really finds its identity through our bench and our depth, and it's kind of a little too soon for those guys to start popping out the way that we normally expect them to.
Yeah, it really doesn't help when everybody's taking your good bench pieces and paid them way more than you were willing to pay them because they played well. They earned the money, but now you have to start over again with your bench.
Yeah,
and that's the hard part. That's what you're getting at. It needs time. Spo, I'll never count him out because of what he did last year. Like, what he did last year was insane.
I won't even say it's just a last year thing. I just think it's just the scheming. It's just the coaching that it's when it comes to the development of our team. Like, yeah, we might not be offensively there, and that might be the only critique that people normally have for us. But other than that, when it comes down to the development, the training, the culture of it, to only have the only deficiency be the offensive struggles or the offensive potency, I think it could be a lot worse in the grand scheme of things. And also that we have our draft.
Do you feel good about the offense?
No, I don't.
Like, in a process, do you feel like you're getting decent shots at all? Or is it more you really it needs fixed?
I think that we lost a lot of it's hindsight's really 2020, because to be like, oh, that you're scoring mafia, that your bench mafia supplement a lot of your offense is obvious. It's obvious to say that, of course. But now when you look at it, you actually see like the number crunch of how much they were actually supplementing. It's like, oh shit, like we don't have anyone that's really outside of our starting group who's comfortable with taking high volume shots or being in that position to score like Max was or Gabe was, who's like, okay, we're kind of sluggish right now. Let me go out there, try to insert some instant offense and try to go 3 for 5 from threes from like in like a 5-minute possession. And we're struggling. We don't have that right now. So it's a thing where eventually I know someone's going to have to give it this season. A move has to happen if things continue the way that they are.
How are you feeling about Tyler Hero? Because they last year started playing well without him, and that was due to the multiple bench guys taking less shots than him, but being more efficient.
I should have pulled up the stats for it, but from what I'm seeing from the eye test, it looks good. Like the eye test at least looks good, and it's at this point he's our number one option on offense. Like there's no other way to put it. Like from what you're seeing, no one else is really catching him or being close to what he can do on the offensive versatility. However, having your scoring option be that undersized in his position and only being one-dimensional is not the greatest. Is not a great place to be. I'm sure, Trey, if you can understand what that's like with Zach LaVine.
You can just say white, Marcus. We understand when your number one option is white. It's not great.
But I'm not going to be like a white person.
Can I actually? I think all of our teams encapsulate what the problem is perfectly, and I feel like over the last, I don't know what decade or so, it's been about the AAU player, everybody coming in basically like Jason Tatum. You know how to play, you know what you're doing, you know what you're supposed to do, but there's a lack of playmaking. There's a lack of guys who can just come in and be creative and have that passing vision and that gene. And I think that's what you really need to run an offense these days. And our teams are perfect examples of lacking it. I think we all agree we severely lack on the playmaking side. And that shows. Miami is 28th, Toronto is 25th, and Chicago is all the way at 18th. But if you look at the top teams, like Philadelphia has Maxey and Embiid, but then you have Indiana at 2, and they've got Halliburton who has that vision. Boston's at 3. They all of them are above average playmakers for their positions for the most part. Dallas at 4, Denver at 5, Atlanta at 6 with Trae Young, Golden State at 7. It's just Oklahoma City at 9, Brooklyn at 8. If you have playmakers, I think that's what helps set your offense apart today. And I think that's what makes a big difference. For me, anyway, that's what I think really you have to have on offense these days. Everyone looks for shooting. For me, I think you're going to find the shooting because everyone has to have it anymore. I think playmaking is the skill that you should look for first.
I'd agree with you. And you can just tell from like the eye test from when you just watch teams that don't really have that number one playmaking option, especially in their starting position. The offense just looks rigid. Like you can just tell from just the way that it's playing. It's like, okay, like I see what's going on, but I hate to use musical terms to describe basketball, but it's not as expressive. It's not as potent. It seems just very bland. And I don't know what we're going to do to shake it up, but something needs to change, at least on our end.
Absolutely. And musical terms is a great way to talk about basketball. It flows. Great basketball flows like great music. And just to touch on my team, like Scotty Barnes, love him. He's the best. He's amazing. He's the reason our team has 3 wins. And that Spurs game, like he just took over. Pascal just needs to understand that he's the number 2 and everybody just needs to drop into their role. OG is a 3-and-D guy. Stand in the corner. Gary Trent, you're a 3-and-D guy. Stand in the corner. Dennis Schroeder, you're coming off the bench. Scotty Barnes is running this offense. And until they start realizing that, we're going to struggle.
Not to try to piggyback, not to try to cut away from you, Sean, but I'm interested in you, Trey, considering that your first game, your team had a players-only meeting. So we know we really haven't had any time to get your perspective on that. But I want to know your thoughts on Chicago Bulls.
Yes.
I mean, I'm excited to see what Philadelphia is going to send us for both Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan because they can take them both back for those expiring contracts and still stay under the luxury tax. I mean, the offense is uninspired. Patrick Williams was struggling. They put him on the bench. He immediately starts doing better because he's getting the ball and he's the offensive focus. But they don't run any off-ball actions. They don't have stuff going on. And that leads back to the playmaking and not having someone who can run an offense in that sort of way. Some of it's on the coaching staff too. But for me, it's just like we knew it was time to blow it up. Last year, clearly they didn't get any offers that were too appealing for them. But DeRozan's an expiring, so I fully expect him to be on the way out. I'm happy for Zach to go too. I'm not sold on him. I would like to keep Vooch. I think he is an above-average playmaker from the center position. I think he has good chemistry with Io and Kobe. I think he puts the guards in positions to succeed. And I think if you want to develop young guys, you need to have playmaking around them. You need guys that can make life easier for them as they get their feet under them. And Vooch is the perfect kind of guy for the players the Bulls are looking to develop. He might not be perfect for Zach and DeMar and their play style, but he's pretty well perfect for everyone else on the team.
If they get rid of those two players, do you think that saves Donovan, or do you think he's on his way out?
I mean, Donovan got an extension. This ownership is notoriously cheap. I think Donovan is the perfect kind of name that they can mention at their fancy rich parties, and people will know from his Florida days, if nothing else. So I don't see him going anywhere. I would love to see him get replaced, but no, I don't expect him to go anywhere.
It must be very frustrating for you because your team was in playoff contention and looking offensively fantastic. Was it like a year and a half, 2 years ago? And I know that things have changed, especially, and I'm going to use a catalyst as a Lonzo injury. But other than that, where do you think it went wrong? Because from the outside looking in, it looked like you guys switched into a win now period when you guys should have been building your younger talent a little bit more before you guys tried to take a crack at it.
I mean, as dumb as it sounds, I think it went wrong when Lonzo went down. But
besides that.
Well, no, I mean, I think that's really it. I think at that point we could have been just like the Heat that went on that run. They got hot on three-pointers and managed to make it to the finals. I don't think the Bulls were ever built to be more than a pseudo contender, like with a puncher's chance. But I think having a 6'6" point guard who makes like him, defends like him, and shoots 40%, I think that really unlocks what this team is lacking. And so for me, it was ownership is terrible. We've known this forever. And they finally replaced the management or the GM and everything. And given the parameters we can assume he was given from ownership. Don't go into the luxury tax, but we want you to contend. I feel like he's done an excellent job of doing that, even though the Vooch trade went literally as bad as it could possibly go. So for me, I'm just happy that our GM looks to be competent and to know how to build a contender, even if it happened to fall apart this time, because I have confidence in how the team was built. Whereas when we were running out Jimmy Butler, Dwayne Wade, and Rajon Rondo as the three alphas with a head coach that wanted to run and gun and shoot threes, I had no faith in the direction of the team. I have faith in the direction of this team. I think they were just dealt the worst possible hand this go around with this attempt at contending.
Okay.
No, that makes sense. And I really like the Lonzo pick as the reason they went down, because that's basically where the ball movement was coming from. Now it's just my turn, your turn, my turn, your turn with Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. Sometimes it works. A lot of times it doesn't. But
not only that, but when those guys break down a defense, when they make the defense collapse on them, the Bulls don't have anyone to kick out to that can capitalize on a bent defense. Lonzo was the guy who they would pass him the ball, and because he shot so good from three, they had to close out hard. And then he's making so many plays from there. But right now, the Bulls just don't have anyone. And it's sad because you would think that would be Zach or DeMar that they could capitalize, but they're so scoring oriented and they don't have that playmaking gene that even when they get the ball, they can't capitalize on the defense not being ready for them.
Does that make you feel like you guys should have made a push for someone in the offseason who probably could have been better in playmaking? Like, I'm sure, like, I know you guys were in the sweepstakes for Drew as well. I'm sure as all three of our teams were. But with that, do you think that would have been a good complementary fix? Because we could make an argument that Jrue Holiday is Lonzo Ball-esque in the way that he does playmaking, he does defend, and also does keep the three ball honest.
No, I don't think he shoots well enough from above the top of the key. I don't think he has the same playmaking vision that Lonzo did. I think he's a good playmaker, but Lonzo, like, he had people
gift.
Forget how special his vision was. Like, that man was a maestro with the ball. So for me, no, I don't think that would have made them a contender. I think and I don't really know who else they could have targeted realistically. So for me, it's just at this point now, it's hoping you can find a team that's going to just give you a crap load of stuff for LaVine, DeRozan. Maybe Caruso's out the door finally. He's on a great contract. I'd like to maybe get 2 firsts for him. If they could squeeze that out of a team, that'd be nice.
No, those are excellent options.
Just grab LaMelo Ball. I mean, if you can't get the number one option, just grab his brother.
But you don't have Jordan there
for Gordon Hayward.
Yeah.
All right, so I have been a huge fan of the in-season tournament when it was proposed, laid out. I've been huge on this thing. Sean has also been pretty high on it. I think, Marcus, you were pretty high on it too, weren't you? You were in on it?
Yeah.
So we were all in on this. The courts, some of them might be a little much, but I loved the courts, and I specifically loved how the courts tied into the city jerseys this year. One of the things I've been annoyed with is how often they just keep having a different jersey every year, but at least now there's a good reason for it. You have the city jersey, you have them wear them, they're themed with the courts. The courts are special. We already have the Steph Curry layup highlight with the special court, underneath it, the layup over Chet to win the game. What do you guys think of the courts, the tournament? Thoughts so far?
Marcus, why don't you start off?
Competitive basketball is always good. Anything that incentivizes teams actually trying and actually putting their best foot forward is something I love to see. I am surprised though, and this is just a little caveat, that I expected the league's doing pretty good with load management. I just didn't expect Phoenix to start load managing this severely so early into the season. I thought that the in-season tournament kind of would have mitigated that for some teams, for example, that the Clippers already have, for the most part, when they can't have Paul George and PG out there trying to get as much incorporation time with their bench team, which I think is good considering that we just started playing basketball. But other than that, I have no complaints. My team's city jerseys are ugly as shit, though. So I think you guys kind of love that better than we did, but I'm not a fan of those. But I do like the fact that it does tie into the actual court. It makes it feel like it actually has a lot more of a meaning, a lot more depth to it. I am a fan of alternate courts. I think they look fantastic. They might be a little gaudy depending on the jerseys, but it gives incentive that this might stick for a little bit longer than one season. It kind of reminds me of back to the retro, like the older jerseys, not retro, that we used to have. Whereas, I remember, Sean, you guys had that ugly military one for years and years and years. Or Trey, you guys had the same. I think you guys do a St. Patrick's Day one Chicago does, or the ones that are staples like that. If we can get something closer that's more reminiscent to that, that would make me really happy. That would make me really happy.
No, it's exactly right. Those military jerseys are not great. I did enjoy those. I thought I liked how all the courts were similar layout and everything like that, just the different colors. I like that consistency. Some of the color schemes were a little off, I found, but it kind of sets it apart. It's regular season basketball, but with a little extra push. And we all knew some teams would load manage. I didn't think Phoenix would. They're just shitting all over them winning 55
at this point,
games.
I don't even think we can call it load managing because he's not playing. I think he's legitimately banged up, and they're just holding him out.
Trey, that looked painful, by the way. I just wanted to get that out of the way before we got any farther. Like, are you okay, bud?
Oh, I am a champ, sir. And I would also like to point out that my wife, who does not watch basketball, noticed the courts when I was watching, and I asked what was up with them. And later that night, saw something on Instagram with the court and sent it to me and said, "Oh, I like this court." So it got a non-NBA fan finding the content on social media and sending it. So it at least did the job there for one person.
I'll count that as a win.
That is a dub. What court did she send you? Yeah, see, I told you the fuck was dying.
The Pacers, actually, which was the one I didn't really enjoy.
Honestly, can we talk about? I actually like it. I know it's super. I know it's like really mustard yellow. I find it endearing.
It was the bright blue that took me a minute to get adjusted to, actually.
Oh.
Yeah, and the way they have the Indy, I was just like,
like
where did any of this come from? But yeah,
I like the Indy.
If you're gonna send it, you gotta full send it like that.
Yeah, that's true.
And to be fair, Indiana is normally a conservative team, so to show them getting a little creative outside the box like that, I think is a good telltale.
Yeah, because it would have been just like the dark blue with the yellow if they were gonna go classic Indy.
Oh yeah, if this is still Larry Bird's team, absolutely.
Yeah. No, that was great. Going through some of the teams in the tournament, who do you think is? I'll give you each group, and you tell me who you think is going to win that group. All right.
Ready.
So we're going to start in the West. We're going to go Memphis, Phoenix, Lakers, Jazz, and Blazers.
Grizzlies, and who was the second one?
Suns.
I'm going to go Lakers.
I'm thinking the Lakers too.
I think this will matter to LeBron. He doesn't have a lot of things he can add to his legacy. One of the things he can add to his legacy is not only winning a play-in tournament, but winning the first play-in tournament.
I had to agree with that. I mean, it's kind of hard because I think that's up for grabs for anyone. I initially want to say the Grizzlies, but with just they have like the worst injuries for them to be competitive as we were seeing real time. What are the options again?
So you've got the Grizzlies, the Suns, Lakers, Jazz, and Blazers.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to be the Blazers or the Jazz. It has to be the Lakers.
Yeah, I think the Suns having to rest Beal and Booker being day-to-day has kind of, depending on when those players come back, they've really got the only other chance. I think at it, the Jazz would be sneaky, like good money. But I think it's the Lakers.
For sure.
So let's go the next one. Nuggets, Clippers, Pelicans.
Nuggets. Doesn't matter. Nuggets.
Mavericks and Rockets. Nuggets. Okay.
Oh, what a group. That's the group of death right there. But Nuggets.
If it's not the actually, I want to be different. I'm gonna go with the Mavericks. I think, you know, I might be crazy, but I think this is gonna be Luka's MVP season. Just from everything that I'm seeing, I just find it hard to bet against him. So and I want to be different from Trey on this one. So I'm locking in.
So I'm with Trey. I think it's the Nuggets. Then the last group in the West, we've got the Kings, Warriors, T-Wolves, Thunder, and Spurs.
Timberwolves.
Kings. I think the Kings are going to take it.
Even without De'Aaron Fox.
Sabonis, man. Give me a Saboner. You know, that's what...
Well, all of the Kings fans we have on Hoop Social, they will appreciate your faith in them, Sean.
Oh, I am riding the Kings all season. I'm taking them everything. I think they're going to be a top 3 seed.
Yo, that's great. Don't you remember when you used to ride for the Timberwolves like this?
Sorry, until they figure out.
We'll save your seat on the bandwagon when you come back. So what do we got going in the East then?
In the East, East A, we've got 76ers, Cavs, Hawks, Pacers, Pistons. That's the group of death.
Sixers.
I'm going to go Pacers. I think I like
their
Halliburton.
Offense is clicking.
Yeah. Well, it's number 1 and number 2 offense going at it, so it's not too bad. All right. East B, we've got Bucks, Knicks, Heat, Wizards, and the Hornets.
I think the Bucks. I know they're struggling with their wing defense right now, and Dame's kind of struggling on offense, but none of the other teams in that group really scare me, and I think the Bucks are going to figure it out enough.
If it's not the Bucks, if the Bucks don't win, it's a disappointment. So I'm going to go with the Bucks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think you could, depending on when the games are and when they get Jimmy going, the Heat could be a sneaky one on that. And then the last group, the Celtics, Nets, Raptors, Bulls, Magic.
God.
Celtics.
The answer that my head says the Celtics, but my heart says the fucking Magic.
That'd be sick. That'd be so awesome. I would fucking love that. But it's like the Celtics, they got.
You two just picked them to win the title, and they're off to a better start than anyone could have hoped for. So yeah. I don't know how you guys can't pick them to win this.
Well, they got a bunch of bottom feeders that they're playing. That's the easiest group in the whole league. It's not even fair.
Don't let Caleb hear you say that.
Oh, I know. It's unfortunate that that's going to happen. But let's quickly, before we go, let's touch on the Harden trade and him playing with the Clippers. I want to hear your guys' thoughts, how you're feeling. Trey, let's start with you.
I think it makes them a more interesting matchup in the playoffs against like the Nuggets, the Kings, because having Harden on your third option does, make a difference. It won't make me I won't have the Clippers favored over any of the teams. It won't make a difference on that end, but I do think it raises the potential for an upset significantly just having him out there, because he is still an effective player, especially if you can have him that far down the totem pole in terms of defensive priority.
Marcus?
This is what Tyrese Maxey needed to shine like the star that he truly is. So I think that's good on that aspect. For the Clippers, I get why you do it. And at this point, once you trade away all your other first rounds, what are like 2 more first round picks at this point? Like for you just to fully commit to it at this point. But it's a good stopgap that at the end of the day, when Kawhi or Paul George does go down, not trying to wish ill on any of them, but this is just a proven fact to show that it happens every season. You have James Harden there as your backup, and I think that says a lot. That I'm sure that Harden and Russ could, as your third and fourth option, that's not a bad problem to have. Questioning if all the depth that they gave away, or if the players that they gave away were worth it. They played 1 game and they lost, which I'm not surprised. Like, I don't see the team making it farther than like the second round. But I think it's a great way to try to get PG and Kawhi to stay invested into the Clippers.
Yeah, I honestly, it's so great for Tyrese Maxey, this trade, and clearly it's been awesome for the 76ers. They have the number 1 offense in the league, so they're not too hurt by this one, and they got some first rounders. So I think we call that a win for Daryl Morey. The Clippers just feel like the throwing shit against the wall team. Like, Ballmer's just throwing money at this team, just trying to make something work. And I have no faith that they're going to make it past the first round, let alone the second round. Any other thoughts on the NBA, boys?
Not the NBA, but shout out to Malaysia Fulwiley from South Carolina. She had that crazy debut. Marcus tagged me, and I had seen it on Threads already, but he tagged me on Instagram about it. Just unbelievable assist and then like an unbelievable drive and finish. Just if you haven't seen the replay yet, just search her name. You will see it. In a day that was full of amazing NBA basketball and college basketball, she had the two best plays of the day. It was just unreal.
Yeah, I love what Dawn Staley has going on down there. It's absolutely fantastic. South Carolina is a juggernaut now in the women's NCAA. Marcus, how are you feeling?
That's all I have really. Yeah, I don't know. NBA go Burr. It's all nice, but like, there's nothing really going on that's like makes me like super crazy. Oh yeah, sorry. Luka for MVP. You heard it here first. When it happens, this is just remember that you heard it here on the 7th of November at 10:25 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Remember the 7th of November. All right. Well, boys, I don't really have much going on in the NBA. The Raptors are, like I said, they just got to put together.
Not hitting step backs.
Yeah. But, Wemby, I'll leave it at this. Wemby has surprised me. I'm not there yet.
Yeah, you got to start backtracking now.
I'm not backtracking yet, but there have been a couple plays where it was just
it kind of looked How dare you, Sean? Me and Marcus have been nice enough to not bring this up, and then you bring it up and have the audacity to say a couple plays. A couple? Do you know what couple means, Sean? That's two.
Like it's like two or three. Plays.
No. Two. A couple is two.
Maybe four tops is a couple.
No. A couple is two.
Yes.
A few is three or more.
Yeah. So, and then many is like five or more. He's already
rookie of the year.
At this point in the season, he's had many highlights. By the time we get to the end of the season, if that's as many percent per capita, we'll see. I don't know. I'm not admitting defeat yet. But against the Raptors, he did look good. Like, I really liked, and I said it in the group, I really liked that Wemby was kind of taking over at the end of the game and just grabbing in the low block because they really couldn't cover him. Like, they threw OG at him. They threw like Scotty at him. They just nobody was tall enough. They just had to stick with him. But yeah, at the end of the game, he started to take over.
What you are with Wemby?
What?
Is a liar, and I will never be a part of him. He's a part of it. Let me say it again. Daryl Morey is a liar, and I will never be a part of an organization that he's a part of.
How dare you?
That's how I feel about you when you slander Wemby like this.
How dare you?
No, he's already rookie. Let me ask you a question. Sure. If you played 50 games, at 80% of the level that he's playing with right now, how would you feel about him then?
I'd not be looking good. That's for sure. That's a lot more games than I'd be thinking. So yeah.
And that's why I picked 50 out of 82, specifically the number 50. Because I'm like, if he plays on average the same amount that Kyrie plays a season, you're cooked. You're cooked, brother. You're done.
And I do think they're playing him in a way where he's not getting a ton of damage on his wear and tear on his body.
No, he's not.
There is that. But I know we have to wrap up and get out of here. We can discuss Wemby later. Sean, go ahead and do the thing.
Well, you can follow Trey on Threads at Finally, and Marcus is No Chill Will. Have a good night, everybody. We'll see about Wemby, okay?